Have you ever wondered why you feel the way you do? Why certain patterns keep repeating in your life? Why you're drawn to certain people? Or why you carry a quiet restlessness that no one else seems to notice? I want you to pause for a moment. Forget the noise of your daily routine, the endless scrolling, the constant distractions. Just you, here, listening. Because what I'm about to tell you might feel uncomfortably personal. It might feel as if I'm describing you in ways you've never dared to put into words. And it all begins with something you've probably dismissed as trivial. The month you were born. Not your zodiac sign. Not some fortune teller's prediction. But the symbolic imprint of time itself. The psychological and archetypal energy of the season you entered this world. Carl Jung believed that the moment of your birth is not random. It is a symbolic gateway, a mirror of the archetypes and rhythms of nature. And if you're willing to look closely, it can reveal truths about your inner struggles, your hidden strengths, and even the shadows you've been running from. So let's go deeper. Let's explore what your birth month might be whispering about your soul's journey. Time is not neutral. We like to think of it as a calendar, a clock, a series of numbers ticking away. But to the ancients, time was alive. It had moods, seasons, and archetypes. Plato spoke of time as the moving image of eternity. Nietzsche saw time as a cycle, an eternal recurrence, where every moment repeats endlessly. And Jung believed that time itself carries symbolic weight, that the season of your birth imprints a psychological tone upon you. Think about it. Being born in the dead of winter is not the same as being born in the full bloom of summer. One enters the world in silence, in scarcity, in cold. The other enters in abundance, in warmth, in light. This doesn't determine your destiny, but it does shape the atmosphere of your beginning, the symbolic soil in which your soul first took root. And whether you realize it or not, you've been carrying that imprint ever since. Let's walk through the year, month by month. As we do, I want you to listen not just with your mind, but with your gut. Notice when something resonates, when it feels like I'm speaking directly to you. That's the archetype calling. January, the silent builder. If you were born in January, you entered the world in stillness. The earth is frozen, the nights are long, and survival requires endurance. You carry within you the archetype of the builder. You are drawn to structure, discipline, and perseverance. But here's the shadow. You often feel the weight of responsibility too heavily. You may confuse control with safety. And in doing so, you risk building walls around yourself instead of bridges. Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." For you, the challenge is not endurance, it's remembering why you endure. February, the visionary outsider. Born in February, you arrive in the liminal space between winter and spring. You are the dreamer, the visionary, the one who sees beyond the present. But this gift comes with loneliness. You often feel misunderstood, as if you're living slightly outside of time. You crave connection, yet you fear being trapped by conformity. Dietrich Bonhoeffer wrote about the courage to stand apart, to resist the crowd even when it costs you everything. That is your struggle. To embrace your outsider nature without letting it isolate you from love. March, the soul in transition. March is the month of change. Winter loosens its grip, spring begins to stir. If you were born here, you carry the archetype of the threshold. You are both and neither. You live between opposites, between endings and beginnings, between silence and expression. This gives you adaptability, but it also leaves you restless, never fully at home. Plato spoke of the philosopher as a midwife of the soul, guiding others through transitions. That is your gift, to help others cross thresholds, even as you struggle to find your own. April, the warrior of renewal. April bursts with life. If you were born here, you carry the archetype of the warrior. You are bold, passionate, and driven by a hunger for new beginnings. But your fire can burn too hot. You leap before you look. You fight before you listen. Your challenge is to temper your courage with wisdom. Machiavelli once wrote that fortune favors the bold, but he also warned that boldness without foresight leads to ruin. Your task is to learn the difference. May, the nurturer of beauty. May is the month of abundance. Flowers bloom, the earth is fertile, life is generous. If you were born here, you carry the archetype of the nurturer. You are drawn to beauty, harmony, and care. You have a gift for making others feel safe, but your shadow is attachment. You may cling too tightly, fearing loss, and in doing so, you suffocate the very life you want to protect. Jung said, "The greatest tragedy of the family is the unlived lives of the parents." For you, the danger is living too much through others and not enough through yourself. June, the mirror of duality. June is the month of light and shadow. The days are long, but the solstice marks the turning point toward darkness. If you were born here, you carry the archetype of the mirror. You are reflective, curious, and often torn between opposites. You see both sides of every story, which makes you wise but also indecisive. Nietzsche warned of the danger of staring too long into the abyss, lest it stare back into you. For you, the abyss is indecision. Your task is to choose, even when both choices feel incomplete. July, the guardian of roots. July is the heart of summer. If you were born here, you carry the archetype of the guardian. You are loyal, protective, and deeply tied to family and tradition. But your shadow is fear of change. You may cling to the past, resisting the flow of time. You must learn that roots are not chains, they are foundations from which you can grow. Bonhoeffer wrote that true freedom is not the absence of responsibility, but the courage to take responsibility for others. That is your calling. August, the ruler of fire. August is the month of fullness, of heat, of radiance. If you were born here, you carry the archetype of the ruler. You are confident, charismatic, and drawn to leadership. But power is a dangerous gift. Machiavelli warned that rulers must balance love and fear. Your shadow is pride, the temptation to dominate rather than guide. Your task is to lead not from ego, but from service. To remember that true authority is not taken, it is given freely by those who trust you. September, the seeker of balance. September is the month of harvest, of transition from summer to autumn. If you were born here, you carry the archetype of the seeker. You crave balance, order, and meaning. You are drawn to knowledge, to analysis, to the pursuit of truth. But your shadow is perfectionism. You may become so obsessed with order that you forget to live. Plato warned that the pursuit of the ideal can blind us to the beauty of the imperfect. Your task is to embrace the messiness of life without losing your hunger for truth. October, the shadow dancer. October is the month of falling leaves, of death and transformation. If you were born here, you carry the archetype of the shadow dancer. You are drawn to mystery, to depth, to the hidden layers of life. You are not afraid of darkness, you know it is part of the whole. But your shadow is obsession. You may become lost in the underworld, forgetting to return to the light. Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." That is your path. November, the alchemist of pain. November is the month of endings, of decay, of preparation for winter. If you were born here, you carry the archetype of the alchemist. You are drawn to transformation, to turning suffering into wisdom. You have a gift for resilience, for finding meaning in pain. But your shadow is bitterness. You may cling to wounds, wearing them as armor instead of healing them. Nietzsche said, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." But he also knew that strength without healing can harden into cruelty. Your task is to let pain refine you, not define you. December, the visionary sage. December is the month of endings and beginnings, of darkness and light. If you were born here, you carry the archetype of the sage. You are drawn to wisdom, to vision, to the big picture. You see life as a story, and you long to understand its meaning. But your shadow is detachment. You may retreat into thought, avoiding the mess of real life. Plato's philosopher sought the eternal forms, but he also returned to the cave to guide others. That is your challenge, to bring your vision back to the world, to share it, to live it. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Your birth month does not define you. It does not lock you into a destiny, but it does reveal the archetypal forces you are most likely to wrestle with. And here's the paradox. The very thing you struggle with most is also the source of your greatest gift. The builder's burden is also their strength. The outsider's loneliness is also their vision. The shadow dancer's darkness is also their light. Your archetype is not a prison. It is a mirror. And the question is, will you look into it? So I ask you, what month were you born in? And more importantly, what story have you been living because of it? Are you the builder, carrying too much weight? The visionary, afraid of being misunderstood? The warrior, burning too hot? The sage, retreating too far? Or are you ready to step into the fullness of your archetype, to embrace both its light and its shadow, to live not as a prisoner of time, but as a co-creator of meaning? Because in the end, your birth month is not just a date. It is